All right. Good evening, everyone. Hopefully, not too hard to hear me. Looks like we got a nice group in here already. How are you? Man, lot to get. Tonight's beer, for those of you that care. This is my pale ale, one of my favorites here. Probably the best version I've ever made, featuring Amarillo. And yeah, it's a full pour tonight because there's a lot to talk about. It's been a busy day. What's up, guys? See a ton of you. A ton of familiar names. Nice to see you. I'm sure there'll be more folks coming. We're going to talk about everything. I'm not going to get too lengthy to start off with because I know there's a lot of questions. I've talked to a lot of people today, between last night and today anyway. And it's a whole lot of things. Probably the biggest thing that people are concerned about right now is the injuries, particularly along the O-line. And that's honestly what my big problem was last night. And if you heard the post game or you saw some of my tweets towards the end of the game, it just got to the point where couldn't get anything done. You couldn't protect Mahomes. You couldn't run the ball effectively. I would have rather seen them run the ball ineffectively for like 2 or 2.5 yards a carry than continue to see Pat Mahomes get pummeled like that. Some of that I felt like was a bit of a stubborn streak. So I don't know. You can call it what you want, but they got to get it straightened out. Interesting to hear Andy Reid talk about today that he feels he could have helped those guys out. Talked about the block on the fourth down with Sherman in the backfield. Talked about backside blocking on that with Cam Irving, that he could have got him some more help. Also talked about the fact that he could have called a different play, and I think he should have. I'm really interested. I'm going to take a look at it in the all 22 when it comes out, but I'm really interested to see. It felt like it was really narrow. Like they were packing inside the tackle boxes, and I feel like they could have hit a pitch, or even just a long handoff to the outside, and made that first down, giving themselves another chance. And I think that's what it comes down to. Talked with Matt Derrick today. He's on the Locked On Chiefs podcast. It should be up here in a few minutes. So keep that in mind. A lot of good information from Matt because he was in the locker room. And that's really that's the biggest thing that you got to take away from. Tyrann Mathieu, Frank Clark, they all talked about it last night as I was doing last night's live. And thanks, Scott. I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. I don't get that fired up that often, to tell you the truth. I like to stay a little bit more analytical. Last night just kind of frustrated me to the point where I had to let loose a little bit. But hearing those guys talk today about they have to stop the run for them. You can have the debate, and I will have the debate on Thursday's Locked On Chiefs. Seth and I will go head-to-head about the run game. And here's the thing. I'll give you guys a little preview just because this is what it comes down to. Throwing the ball is definitely more efficient. Seth's not wrong about that. Neither is Eric Eager, who you've heard on the show. Nobody at PFF is wrong about it being more efficient. There are still downsides, though. There are things that the analytics, and I run an analytics company, so take this at my word. There are things that the analytics can't tell you, and that's specifically about the physiology, about the players in between plays, and as the game wears on. And that's the thing. You can beat a passing attack the way that the Colts did and the Patriots did, by doing two things, and they have to be done together. You can run the ball, but you have to play good defense too, because you're reducing everybody's chances in terms of possessions, right? I think Pat had 2 less possessions this game than he did week 3. But if he still scores on them, if the Chiefs score over 20, it doesn't matter. You have to play defense that stops them as well, and that's the key. And so at the end of the day, I come back to this team has to be able to score more than 20 points. I thought the defense did their job for the most part. Yes, they looked terrible against the run. Yes, they gave up some stupid plays. Too many penalties. I will blame them for that. But at the end of the day, they held their opponent under 20. Pat Mahomes, as the leader of what is the most explosive offense in this league, has to be able to put up more than 20 every game without doubt, no matter what. I don't care who gets hurt. It doesn't matter. You have to find a way around it. Part of that is Andy Reid being more spontaneous in making adjustments. Part of it is Mahomes, and Mahomes was very specific. Again, last night while we were talking on here, Mahomes was telling the media, I have to be better against attacking man coverage. And that's absolutely true. There's no way that arm should not be destroying man coverage just as good, except for one aspect. And that's the fact that they didn't have Tyreek Hill and they didn't have Sammy Watkins. And those are their two best performers against breaking man coverage and beating the press. That's what they have to have. And without that, that's where it comes down to they're not able to. Yes, Hardman and Pringle are young. So you can't give them a pass, but you can understand that they're probably not ready to beat the press like that. Both of them played a lot of slot in college, so they didn't have to do it in college. The one I'm most disappointed in is Demarcus Robinson. He's a big, strong guy who's had really great season so far, and he didn't look like he could beat the rest for nothing. It didn't look like he gave Mahomes options. That's a problem. So, it's a two-way sword. Mahomes can't do it by himself. That's why this video is titled what it is. Mahomes and Tyrann Mathieu, the two guys that stood out and did their jobs to the best of their ability and gave this team chances to win, they can't do it by themselves. There's just no way. So that's where we get back to. And I've ranted now for like going on 6 minutes. I'm sorry it took so long. I see you guys are asking good questions in there. I'm going to back up just a little bit. But we'll start here going forward because I don't want to, if I back up too far, we're just going to get lost. So if you ask a question and it's already scrolled past me, just ask it again and I will get to it. Anybody wants to support the channel, hit the super chat. You can do that. And if you guys want to support the channel another way, look down that bar that has all the t-shirts and stuff like that. Anything you buy in there helps us out. And I think it goes a long way towards expanding the kingdom. So I'm always for that. Appreciate anybody who wants to do that. Now that said, first question here, Dr. Sanitary, any thoughts on Reed's comments about Kelsey and the sideline meltdown? I think he's covering him for him a little bit. I think that's something you don't want to see. Andy Reid doesn't want to see that. I'm sure he's a little frustrated with it, but clearly Bieniemy and Kelsey got it back together and we're working together, and I don't think it's going to be a permanent issue. But yeah, you don't want to see that, and I don't think Andy did either. I think he's trying to play it cool. So, and that's okay. That's fine. That's what a leader does. Scott Mesa, can K-Pass take over for Chris Jones? No. I mean, he can play the position, and I think he'll be okay. He's going to get destroyed in the run because he's too long. He can't play with leverage down low enough to stop the run. And quite frankly, he's not the pass rusher. He's not near the pass rusher that Chris Jones is. So it's not a replacement, no. But he may end up playing in that position. Steve Concepcion, should the Chiefs go after a defensive tackle in a trade? No, nobody's going to give up anybody of any worth. You got to get your guys healthy. I think Joey Ivy's a good option, because he knows the system. He did perform at times pretty well in the preseason and even showed up a little bit in the regular season. So I'm comfortable with that. But the key is you got to get Saunders to play. I thought he held up pretty good against the run. Again, I have to see the all-22 film. But I felt like he did a decent job. So I'm okay with that. The question is the rotation. Are there enough D linemen so that they don't get worn out again? Because the end of that game, the last couple of drives, they were toast. And that's going to be a problem going forward. So that's going to be the bigger issue, I think. Good question, though. Let's see who's next. There it is, Curtis Douglas. Thoughts on Reed being stubborn, but Mahomes also always looking for the home run instead of taking the check down. I'm not concerned about that. I don't want him to take the check down. I'd rather him use his legs in a position like he was last night, where he can't use his legs, where his ankle's banged up to the point where he can't run. I'd rather see him throw it away. The check down is not going to help you that much. I'd rather see Reed call more screens. I thought that would help his quarterback out, and he kind of went away from that after the Shady fumble. I think it's more about the intermediate. Come off the deep ball if that's what you're looking for, and come to the intermediate. You don't have to come all the way back down Alex Smith style to the running back, especially when you're running backs that are running arrow routes and running wheels up the sideline. Don't come all the way back. That's my thought. Let's see. What else? Deldrick Smith, how are you, bud? Do you think that after getting punched in the face by Detroit Lions, the Chiefs would play tougher than this? I had hoped they would. But let's face it. Right now, despite having the ability to not be this, your Chiefs are a finesse team. They're not a bunch of tough guys. They need to find some of that. I don't know where they're going to do it. On the offensive line, There's not much nasty there. Wiley's out. Wiley's nasty. LDT can be. Eric Fisher can be. So you got 1 out of 3. The rest of those guys are not nasty. Reader's overmatched. He is not playing well enough to keep his quarterback healthy, and that's the key. And on defense, man, you got enough guys that should. Got to see it happen. I know Frank is frustrated. I can hear that in his voice when he speaks about the situation. I can tell Frank's frustrated. Can he turn that into a positive motivation to motivate everybody else? Because there were a couple of guys that hinted about the fact that stopping the run's about attitude. It's about aggression. It's about taking pride and not letting that happen. And it doesn't seem that this team had it. I saw guys pulling up. I saw guys not jumping onto a pile, or honestly, not even a pile. When somebody had a runner stood up where they could reinforce them and they didn't bother. There is something about a lack of intensity there. And I can't put that on the coaching staff. I got to put that on the players. So let's hope that they can get that turned around. Let's see. Clinton Petrie. Do we make a drastic move somewhere to combat these injuries, or do we just stomach with what could be a long stretch? They're just going to have to stomach it. They don't have the room to maneuver. And if they are going to maneuver, they got to get a corner. You're still going to see teams attack them that way. Now, Seth's also right about this other part. And Eric Eager actually puts it a little bit better, no offense, Seth. The running game, if you continue to function on offense and score your points, the running game cannot bury you by itself. So, yes, it's embarrassing. It steals your manhood a little bit if you're one of those players out there. But it alone cannot bury you. You have to attack the defense, and you have to get good there. That's what it's going to come down to. So I don't think you blow the whole kit and caboodle and try to do something crazy just about this particular style. For me, it's more about beating man coverage, being able to attack cover zero, because if you can be the press and you know where you need to go with the ball, cover zero is an open slate for huge plays because there's only one safety back there and at least 3 of your wide receivers can run past them. So there's plenty of opportunity. That's what it comes about. Protecting Mahomes long enough so that he can make the reads and deliver the ball and have the receivers break free from press in particular, but man in general. Stephen Concepcion, do we need a legit running back that can threaten the defense? We have 3 of them. I was not impressed with Damian. I don't think he should have gotten that many snaps. I'm a little disappointed is the best way to put it, that Darryl didn't get more play. Darryl's been grinding out those tough yards the last few weeks with Damian hurt, and they didn't go to him, and that's an oversight. He's shown what he can do, and when you're in a fist fight like that, sometimes you got to come back out swinging and just go gutter ball and go hardcore, and that's what had to happen, and they couldn't do it. So I think that was an opportunity missed. Okay, Wolverine. Thanks for the donation. Appreciate that. Percent chance that we trade for another wide receiver, MLB, or corner before the deadline. I do think one of those things happens. I think it is going to be a corner. I don't think you're going to get trade value in either a wide receiver or a middle linebacker. And honestly, this is the reason that Pringle and Hardman are here. It's so that if Sammy or Tyreek has to be out, that they have someone else. As long as you have one of those guys, you can beat man. What we saw last night is because they didn't have either. And at that point, that's where it becomes problematic. I don't think you can foresee that happening the rest of the season, but it could. So that's what they have to protect against. Armani Watts not being utilized, embrace. Because Armani Watts is not that good in zone. He's best attacking downhill. He's best doing what Tyrann Mathieu does, basically. And I don't think that he's caught on to the scheme as clearly not as well as Sorensen. But honestly, you don't want to take Thornhill off the field because he needs as many reps as he can see. He blew 2 tackles last night. That's not because he didn't understand where the play was going. That was a technique thing. I don't think Watts has any better chance of that. Watts misses tackles too. And I think it's more important to get Thornhill better quicker than using Armani Watts. Although I will say this, I do like Armani better than I like what Lucas does. Jake Ham, Niners or Browns? Couldn't care less. Not sure what that question's about. Sorry, bud. Shoot, scrolled past it again. You guys are asking a ton of questions. Thanks. Versace. With Jones and Xavier out, how concerned should we be about the run game? Do you see any roster moves coming? Yeah, I think they bring back Joey Ivy. I think they might bring back Jeff Allen this week. We'll see what happens. It depends on everybody's treatment comes out. And yeah, I'm concerned about the run because teams are going to do this until they make them stop. They are going to man up on them, especially without Hill and Watkins. And they're going to push him around. They're going to continue to hammer Travis Kelce and try to get him to melt down like he did when he was younger. And in the meantime, they're going to run the ball all over you because if they can stop you for a possession on offense and they can control 6 or 8 minutes of the clock, they just took a possession away from the Chiefs. That's what they're going to try to do. The difference is the only thing that will break that pattern and ruin what happened against the Colts is if the Chiefs are able to put up their points like normal. It's the offensive breakdowns that can thwart that the most easily. So we'll see it. Tyler, Bayrons, I think that's how you say it. Consequences for Kelce. Doesn't sound like there are any. There might be some internal ones that we'll never hear about, but I don't think they're going to do anything public. Firefighter Farmer, how are you, pal? Why isn't Sherm used more in the offense to block? I have no idea. And quite frankly, he has to be used this week because you have to help Cam Irving. With Mahomes' ankle, you got to protect him. Texans aren't slouches by any means. So I expect to see Sherm lined up as the H behind the line of scrimmage, off of the tackle to help. Not to come out of the backfield and chip, but I mean like a legitimate double teaming the outside guy that has to go against Cam Irving. That's what they have to do, in my opinion, because you got to help him. I'd love to see Sherm used in a number of ways, but that's the one that is most imperative about protecting Mahomes right now. Aaron, I'm glad you're liking the shirts. I hope the gray one turned out. I personally haven't gotten one of those yet, but I will. And if you guys have more ideas for shirts, I threw it up last night because that pass that Mahomes threw, only Mahomes, I called it. And I did do the hashtag for that, no matter what Twitter says. So I threw that out. They're easy to do. If you guys have something you want, just shout at me and I'll get them out there. Let's see. Tim Reynolds, how long do you think Watkins will be out? I don't know. He's had hamstring issues before, and soft tissue injuries like that can definitely last a while. So I felt like they rushed him back. If it was that significant on Friday, I think they should have just waited. And hopefully that didn't put him back too much. Let's see. Do you think that the O-line is the biggest team weakness? No, I still feel it's the corners. But right now, it's because of the injuries. Maybe you can make that argument. I guess I wouldn't really argue with you. This version of the offensive line, because they're, down 4 starters at this point. I mean, because honestly, Reader shouldn't be a starter either, but, that's what happens. You couldn't sign. I saw a lot of people yelling at me last night to re-sign Mitch Morse. You couldn't do it. He's concussion happy. Once you get concussions continually like that, it's more prevalent that you're going to get them continually and you're going to miss games. It was not a good investment. I'm glad he got paid. I'm glad he's able to play some, but he's already been out. He's already missed time. So we can't go backward and start talking about Morse. Who's next? Tyler Thatcher. Trade for Deion Jones from Atlanta. Also, the first game ever at Arrowhead, everything just looked off. Not much of analysis, but hey. But sometimes the eye test does it, man. I felt like they came out flat. I felt like they overlooked this team. Quite frankly, I don't know how you think that Justin Houston is not going to get his. I felt like the whole game plan just kind of ignored the facts. I will say this, though. The Colts are a zone team. And they came out and manned you up a whole lot better than they should have been able to. You should have been able to beat them. That was not good. That's a lack of intensity. Tyler, as far as Deion Jones, A, I don't think the Falcons would ever want to part with him. And B, he's not going to help you against the run either. He's okay. I mean, he might be a little better than Darren Lee, but he's not going to help you against the run. He will be better in coverage than both of those guys. And I thought Neiman played admirably for being a backup, but he's not better than them either. So we'll see what happens. What would you give up for Roquan Smith, who had to take a leave of absence from Bears? Nothing. Taking leave of absence is a bad sign. That's not an investment worth making at this point. I liked him coming out of college, but I wouldn't go get him now. Absolutely not. Dr. Sanitary, I've given Frank a pass until now, but I saw him get manhandled a lot last night. Has he given up after the check? I don't think so. He looks like a guy who's frustrated. And he did get doubled some last night, maybe not as much. And I still feel like, the defense is playing too many snaps because the offense keeps having stupid penalties and not being able to move the ball and convert. So that's putting them at risk. And we've heard that story for years. But also, I just feel like a lot of the defenders are not in shape. I don't feel like their conditioning is up to standard. That's not something they can really fix right now. So it's going to be a tough haul. But no, I don't feel like he gave up after the check. I feel like maybe he thought he was better than he is, and maybe he just needs to work harder. It seems like that's how he feels, so I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and see what happens. Let's see. Cutie Bandit 14, are you scared JJ Watt next week? A little bit. It depends where they put him. If they're smart, they're going to do exactly what I said the Colts would do last week and put everybody over on the right-hand side of the defense against Cam and whatever warm body's going to be in there at left guard. It sounds like it's going to be Ryan Hunter. I hope that it's Jeff Allen and they get him back soon. I think that gives you a better chance to win. Against Schwartz and LDT, I'm okay with JJ. He'll get his plays, but I think they'll do a decent job against him. It's whoever's going to play on that opposite side that's the big trouble. K69, what do you expect from Veach before the trade deadline? I expect a corner of some kind. Safety, I don't think you need. I don't think there's a middle linebacker that can help you that's going to be available. Maybe you could get an O-lineman. Maybe you could get a D-lineman, maybe. But I think trades are going to be reserved for the more powerful positions, and I think it's going to be a corner. I have not given up on Patrick Peterson. So that's it. Let's see. Do you think we need a run-stopping linebacker instead of a corner? Like I said, no, I don't think you can get one. And we have I should stop saying we. The Chiefs have a run-stopping linebacker. His name's Reggie Ragland, and they refuse to play him. So they're not interested in bolstering the run game. They just want to protect against the pass. They still feel that it's blown assignments, lack of gap discipline, and players either trying to do too much, or I think there's some general over pursuit out there quite a bit. But that's really what the Chiefs are seeing. Good question. That's the same question. I answered that, Andrew Ringwood. Let's see. Should the Chiefs run more cover zero? Kenneth Lajeunesse, maybe? Sorry, but they can. But you see what happens in Breland. When he's in tight man, he can get run by. He is susceptible to the deep ball, as is Fuller. Ward's your best in tight man in terms of carrying down the field. But if they went into it, if I'm anybody that has any kind of speed, I go for verts and put my fastest guy on Breland and just let him run by him. Breland will be good at the initial contact because Breland's pretty good in the press, but he will get run by eventually, especially if there's any kind of change of aspect of where the quarterback's throwing from. So like for Deshaun Watson coming up, if Deshaun breaks the pocket, Fuller's gone. Several of their guys are gone. So I don't see that being the best thing. I think when it's third and critical, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, situationally, run it and surprise them. And I'd tack on a safety blitz too. But as a common occurrence, no, I don't think that's the way for this group of defensive backs to perform their best. Okay. Mr. AG, here comes Hyde. Boy, it's turning into a revenge factor. I don't think so. I think he runs better in that scheme. I think they run more power more often, and I haven't watched all of the Texans, but I think they run more power than the Chiefs do, and I think Hyde's more at home in that than he is in the zone system. So I think it's just personal preference that's allowing him to perform better there. Mr. AG, the GM of the Colts really surpassing Veach talent-wise. Doesn't have to surpass him. Chris Ballard was always better than Brett Veach. He's one of Brett Veach's mentors. He's continuing to show why. Honestly, last 2 seasons, I think Chris Ballard's the best GM in the league, period. Bar none. So, no, not surpassing. Just showing why he's the mentor and Veach was the mentee. I still think Veach is doing a pretty good job. I think he gets a little sidetracked by intangibles, attitude, leadership aspects. That's why Hutch is here. I'm sorry, not Hutch, Hitchens. Sorry, not Hutchinson, Hitchens. That's why he's here, because he liked his attitude, liked his leadership capabilities, liked his reliability. Those are all great things, but if he's not physically capable of doing the job in both the run and the pass, that contract is too high. That's just my opinion, but that's what I think it boils down to. Next question. Scott Mays, are the LBs to blame for the bad run defense, or is the D-line, or is it miscommunication? It's a bit of both. Last night I saw Damian Wilson, who I think has been the best front seven defender to this point this season. Most consistent, although certainly not perfect. I saw him overrun plays and jump gaps. I think guys are so concerned about it. They're overpressuring themselves. They're running either past their gap assignment or they're abandoning it and guessing, and that is a recipe for disaster. That, and he's the only one who can take on blocks successfully, and he's not 100% at it. You see guys that the best thing about Derek Johnson was Derek Johnson knew he wasn't a strong enough linebacker to take on guards and stack them and shed them. I mean, and that should look like 2 hands, push him out, throw him aside. If you're not strong enough to do that, you have to avoid the block. And that's what Derek Johnson is so good at it. Was so good at. These guys don't seem to understand or admit that. I showed a play last week in the film room where Darren Lee beat his block initially. And yes, he did beat the block. I saw some people commenting today that he never did. Yes, he actually did, because his assignment was to the outside, and he beat that blocker to the outside. Then as the back cut back inside because of the gap, he was unable to fight through the block of a guy that he should have been stronger than. That's part of the problem. It's functional strength at the point of attack. When you do get on the wrong side of a block, how do you fight through it? Are you capable of breaking that down and getting back to where you need to be? That's the problem with the linebackers from what I see. Let's see. Harry Mills, I agree with you. That's why I like Daryl as well. Scott Meza, nope, that was the same question. Armando, are they going to do fumble drills? Can they handle being pushed? I don't know. Something's going on. And whether it's the gauntlet or just punch-out drills, they got to do something. It's kind of ridiculous. Carlos, I don't think they're going to trade for an elite lineman, no. They do want to bolster the lineup. They don't want to give away draft picks for an O-lineman. If they did, they would have drafted some. So I don't see him doing that. Cole Keeler, I see a lot of people griping about the defensive effort, but what do you think about the bigger problem? Is that or the fact that we had so many injuries and rarely had the ball? That's part of it, yeah. Being unable to sustain the drives because of the penalties and the injuries. And injuries happen. You have to be able to sustain that. You saw Byron Pringle step up because Sammy wasn't available. That's what needs to happen at every position across the board. The offensive line did not do that. Let's see. William Simpson, frustrated in Hawaii. O-line comment, please. Oh, I think I've hit a bunch of them now, bud. And aloha, by the way. Is it too late to change the running scheme from a zone to a power run? Yes, you don't have the personnel. This is not a power run offensive line. These guys are all light, nimble, and athletic. They are zone run blockers. They try to it, and that's why you saw that 4th down fail, because they're not power blockers. They don't drive the defensive line off of the line of scrimmage. They are athletes. That's why they tried to pull. And pull is a power concept. But you have to pull around 3 other guys who have made their power blocks and move guys off of the line of scrimmage away from the ball carrier. And when that doesn't happen, you can't go anywhere. So no, they cannot change that. Honestly, I don't think Reed would in the first place, but they certainly don't have the personnel to be a power run team. Let's see. Jimmy Phillips. Why is it that throughout Andy's career, he always has to have these reminder games at least twice a season? Because every team's different. Every defensive coordinator is different, and he feels like he has where he wants to go, and some defensive coordinators get the better of him. It happens. It's why people don't go 16-0 every year or ever. Michael Turner, do we have an idea about who will get the get back next weekend? No, not yet. Very, very little information today. Wednesday, when they come back and start practicing him, we should have more information. Check the Locked On podcast. We'll go through that as soon as we know stuff. Let's see. Can we trade for Trent Williams or Geno Atkins? No, I don't think they'll give up anything for either of those guys or anybody like them. I just don't think they're going to trade for linemen. Fast Action, thanks for your donation. What do you think? Do you think Eric Bieniemy will go to Washington to be the next head coach there? No, I do not. I think Eric's a pretty smart guy, and nobody in their right mind wants to go coach in Washington. Let's see, Jamie Householder, and I don't mean to cut your question off short there. Fast Action, I think that organization is just a mess. And I think Jay took it because he wanted to be a head coach and he wanted to compete with his brother. And I don't think anybody else who really cherishes winning rather than being in charge wants to go there at all. So that's what I thought. Sorry, I didn't mean to brush you off there. Jamie Householder, Frank Clark is not stepping up. Has he been a bust for all the money or will he turn it around? I think he will turn it around. He has to play stronger. And he is a guy that plays with some power and some speed. He's got to turn it on, though. And I think so far, I think he's been living off of his reputation a little bit. He does have to buckle down, and he does have to get his stuff in order. Aaron Morrow, will they learn what they need? Will they learn what they need to from this loss? I hope so. I'm not 100%. Sometimes guys have to be embarrassed multiple times before they get it through their skulls. I don't know. And then there are some aspects, like Darren Lee against the run, that they're just not capable. They're not that kind of athlete. So there are deficiencies there. I think we're going to see Reggie Ragland play some this next week, though, and I think that's going to help, especially setting the edges, hopefully coming off the edges as well. I think they're going to line him up as a DE when they use him, because even if Okafor is back and Frank is recovering, and Frank was banged up last night, they don't have the rotation they used to have. You can put Tano out there, you can put him inside, but Reggie was out there for a reason. And if you guys missed my tweet today, so Reggie has 5 pass rush snaps on the season, and PFF lists him with 2 pressures. I have him with 3. So he's running about a 60% pressure rating, which is astronomical, best in the league. It's only 5 snaps, though, so maybe play the man more. Oh, it drives me nuts. Any chance Casey trades for a swing tackle? No. There's no value in trading for a swing tackle. Anybody who has one wants to keep them, and they'll demand something outrageous that you wouldn't pay for them in the first place. So, no, I can't see that happening. Sorry, Info. I agree with you, though. It is a weakness. And that said, even Martinez Rankin is a guy that they think can be a tackle in the future. He played tackle in college. He played guard and tackle with the Texans. I liked him coming out. I've never done his film in Houston because I just didn't have the time to get into it. I'm not so sure that he's there, but pretty soon, Eric Fisher's number is going to come up. He's getting older. I'm interested to see how well he returns from this surgery to see exactly where he's going to be at. Let's see. Catfish Hunter. Should Mahomes rest for a week or two? It's a consideration. I can't say that I would say no if Reed wanted to do it. But here's the thing. Without Hill and Watkins and without Mahomes, there's no way you win games. This offense cannot put this stuff up with Matt Moore. And that's my bigger problem. Again, that's why I think they should run the ball more. And I said it last night, and people hammered me because they just don't get it. If Mahomes goes down and misses time, those are losses, period. You got to keep him upright. You got to keep him on the field. So I don't think they'll let him take any time off. I don't think he needs it. He's a tough kid, and, man, he is putting it out there. So I don't think it's going to happen. But that's just my gut. I could be wrong. Let's see. Ooh, did I miss something? Shoot, yeah, I missed a lot. Sorry. I'm trying to get to all these questions. Coming back. That was, should Mahomes rest? No. Run to be concerned of, this is, it's Kojak. Do you think we should get Ragland back in there? Yes, absolutely. I don't care where, but get him on the field. Is anyone to blame for not exactly looking deep into the defense because he's too focused on the offense? Oh, is Andy to blame? Not really. He's never been one to stick his nose in the defense. He is very much hire a guy that he trusts that runs the defense and let him do it. When he feels he has to, he will step in, and he did mention that. I think it was today in today's presser. He mentioned that that maybe I can go help them with some of these things. So, and Reed certainly feels that the run defense in particular is gap discipline, and that's about it. So we'll see if he's right. Are you disappointed with all the missed catches? Yeah, I'm pretty frustrated. Some of it, I have to admit, is Mahomes not being as accurate as he usually is. But also, they just got to go do it. I put more on the pass catchers than the passer. Andy Anderson, I look for a rebound. As high as the Chiefs' kingdom was, it was hard to crash for some fans. The sky's not falling. Tyreek will provide a spark. You're absolutely right on all counts. And they got to find it in themselves to really come out and start swinging. Do you think Mahomes has been so much he might be making bad throws? I'm not sure, Justin Troba. I'm not sure what that means. I think he is pushing himself, and I think he needs to dial it back and take things that work. But you see what happens when he breaks the pocket. That's why they weren't able to get anything going, because when he has pressure in his face, he usually can run away, and that's when things happen. When he's hobbled like he is now, it's very difficult. Big test. I did look at Claiborne as he was on the field. I didn't see anything stand out in a negative way. I thought he was good against the run, and I noticed like 2 reps where I thought his coverage was pretty good. I'll look at the 22 on him though. Scott Mays with Mahomes ankle tweaked. Does pocket play be the best way to beat Texans? It has to be, because he's not going to be able to run. He'll probably get better this week a little bit, but he can't run like he normally does. Aaron Morrow, where were the jet sweeps to keep Mahomes somewhat clean? That's a very good question. Why didn't they throw more screens as well? Other things that keep the quarterback from getting hit. That's what has to happen. Now, I can understand, because the pass rush was getting there, and with the offensive line, some of those jet sweeps can be really, really deadly if they get blown up. So you got to be careful with that. Blow Lips says, can you please tell him it's about the mentality, not just the numbers? Oh, we're going to have a long discussion. Don't worry. But he is right that this particular game was more on the offense in terms of why they lost than the defense. But his thing from a couple weeks ago, we're going to have a sit down about the run game matters and the run defense still does matter. Let's see here. Metal Rocker X, hey Ryan, good to see you, pal. Do you think that the loss at home, do you think the Chiefs will use it as fuel to spark a winning drive the rest of the season? I certainly hope so. That's what you want to see. You want to see them get punched in the face and turn it around. They couldn't do it within the game, but hopefully they can go home and look in the mirror and get some soul searching done and pick their stuff up. They can't be a finesse team, because this is what's going to happen to them. They're going to get roughed up from the defensive secondary, and they're going to get roughed up in not having enough time to do what they need to do. Should we be interested in Brandon Marshall from the Broncos? No. Roger, he can't help you. He can't barely run. So yeah, he's not in a position to do anything. Adam Daughtry, just getting here. What's your thoughts on the O-line? Man, I went through it quite a bit. They're in trouble. I hope Jeff Allen comes back. Ben Struck, you think Mahomes' footwork in the pocket, stepping into throws, is causing him to be just a touch off on some throws? Not so much stepping into. He's getting jostled around. But he's proven he doesn't need a platform. I showed a play in the film room last week. He literally threw across his body 25 yards with not a foot on the ground. So I don't think that's it. I think it's more about the distraction of where he's going and making sure that he's placing the ball where it can be caught. And honestly, some of his receivers are letting him down too. Nova Smith, why aren't they using Darwin Thompson, the rookie running back? Because he's not ready. He can't pass protect. That's why they didn't play Shady last afternoon, the last half, because Shady wasn't getting the protections right. If you can't help with that, you cannot play, period. You cannot risk the franchise. And Darwin's just not ready. Yes, he's explosive, but when he's been in there, he hasn't really hit the hole that hard. I think he's had like one play where I went, okay, that looks like what he can be. He'll get there. He's just not going to be able to do it as a rookie. You know, I said this months ago, and everybody was concerned. It's not that there's anything wrong with Darwin Thompson. It's just that he's coming a long way from where he played in college in terms of the level of competition. He'll be fine. He just can't help you right now. Yevgeny, could you talk more about the play calling? It seems like the Chiefs failed to adjust on offense. You know, I agree with you there. And that's, like I said, some of the screens that should have been called, some outside zones, not necessarily jet sweeps, because I think that's too dangerous against some of those, especially as the game wore on, they got more dangerous. But pitches, split backs that we've seen them do, some of the other things, again, that takes pressure off of Mahomes holding the ball. I think that's all that it takes. And then you get to the point where you've shown them enough, play action will work, and he'll actually have a little bit more time to throw the ball, even when he is hurt. So I think that's going to come into the game plan next week. It certainly should. I just don't know if Andy's pliable enough to do that. We're going to see what he comes up with. He may get very funky and try some very cool things too. I want to see Yelder get involved more next week, and I want to see them do the low crosser game because you can get the ball out faster. Aaron, with your background, how long are you going to be without Jones and X and then Fisher and Wiley? Okay, Jones is a groin. Depending on the severity, if it's torn off the bone, 6 weeks. If it's just a strain and it's just soft tissue, could be 2. You know, I don't think he's going to play this next 2 games. I'll tell you that. And that's mostly because they're 2 games in 10 days. The healing just isn't going to happen there. Fisher is more of a question. I don't know what the repair was. I don't know how bad the tear was. So that's really hard to tell. It could be another week. It could be another 5 weeks. Wiley sounds like it's an ankle sprain. They said it was not a fracture today. So that's a good thing for Wiley. The high ankle sprain, which is I heard early, and then Derek confirmed for me this afternoon, it's not a high ankle sprain. It's just a regular around the ankle joint, not going up the leg. That could be 2 weeks. He could miss 2 games. He could miss 1. It's all going to be about how the therapy goes and how Andrew Wiley's body reacts to it. It looked pretty bad. So it feels like it's fairly severe to me, but you never know. Sometimes, that's the way it goes. Sometimes things look like they're terrible, and one person's body heals at a different rate than someone else's. So really, we just got to look for updates on Wiley. Scott Meza, does Robinson step into Sammy's spot and Pringle move towards his? I think they're just going to play with it. I don't know that they're going to have dedicated spots. I think they all need to do everything, and I think that's why you're starting to see Pringle play, is because he's finally gotten to the point where he knows all 3 spots, and that's kind of a requirement for Andy. He's talked about that in the past. So I think you'll see him move around. They definitely have different skill sets. And I think Demarcus Robinson been down the last week or 2. I want to see him step back up. And this is where my concern level was preseason about why I didn't always trust him to be a reliable source. Well, he showed that last night. So let's see if he steps it back up. Scott Conklin, I think I missed your first comment. I just see my name there. So come back and ask it again. Jerry Pratt, thanks for your donation, bud. Appreciate it. Your question is, do you think the Chiefs were slacking because they thought it was an easy game to win, believing the hype of the media? I think that could play part of it. They definitely did not look like they came out with much intensity. They didn't look to me like they came out ready for what they were going to get. They had to think that after the Lions showed that it could be successful, at least in part, in being more physical with them and playing man in particular, you had to think that they were going to see that. And they didn't look prepared for it. And part of that's on Coach Reid, and part of that's on the players. But you have to expect it. And to hear all the guys say after the game that, yeah, the teams are going to do this to us until we prove we can stop it, well, then that tells me that they knew to expect it. And they didn't come out. They didn't come out and buck up. I mean, I want swollen chests. I want guys ready to swing. Controlled aggression is what I'm looking for. And they just didn't have it against the Colts. Should Pringle be used more when Hill comes back? I want to see Hill, Watkins, and Hardman as soon as that can happen. In the meantime, I would sprinkle Pringle in with Hardman and Hill as a duo and try to see what happens there. Appreciate that, Roger. Scott Meza, I do not have koozies and I do not have hats. Every single printer that I have come across wants me to buy 100 of them and keep them at my house so I can send them out myself. I don't have the time to do that. I am too deep in the film. So what Teespring does is you order it, they print it and ship it right to you. I'm totally out of the loop as far as the printing and shipping. So and Teespring will let me do hats once I sell enough units or whatever. I don't know what their minimum thresholds are, but eventually they'll be able to do it. If I can find another provider to do the koozies and the hats, I will do that. I just haven't had find any luck finding somebody that'll print on demand. So if you guys know of somebody that's a print on demand, let me know. Low lip, why didn't they use the tight ends and RBs to help Irving? I saw it a couple times, but they didn't do it enough. And I think that's a trade-off for Andy. He doesn't want to take guys out of patterns. When he feels like he has to start throwing the ball more, he doesn't want to reduce the number of pass patterns out there. So he doesn't want to chip. He doesn't want to keep guys in. But I think he's got to change that. And I think the threat of possibly getting his quarterback injured is enough to make Andy start doing that more. And like I said, I'd like to see Sherman line up as an H on that side all game long, because you can run outside of him. He'll help you with the chips. And quite frankly, he can run routes from there that I think can be effective. Let's see. Scott Concepcion. Sorry, I keep stumbling on your name, Scott. How much of the blame for this loss goes to coaching? A portion of it. I can't tell you exactly how much, though. I'd have to be in the rooms, and I'm just not willing to venture a guess. J-Dub, when do you think Hill and Fisher will return? I think Hill could play in the next game or two. I'm not sure. I think Fisher will probably not be back for the next two. I'm thinking Green Bay. Let's see. Aaron, how does Irving not get a single hand on Houston, of all people? He didn't try. Houston was backside pursuit. The ball was supposed to go in the B gap on the other side from what I saw on television. I'll check the film and see if it was aimed at the A gap maybe. So he just decided not to. I don't know if it was him or the play call, but somebody decided that the backside defensive end was not going to be a problem, and they were completely wrong. And normally I would say that's an acceptable gamble, except when it's Justin Houston with a grudge. That's just ridiculous. You have to account for him at all times, and he proved that. Red Royce, why did I wasn't overboard? Well, thanks. I appreciate that. Yeah, they got to keep him safe. Any word on Mankins, Aaron Morrow? Not specifically. I'll be interested to see what happens Wednesday. Matt feels they're going to start with Hunter getting reps. I don't know if they bring back Jeff Allen, but I want to see Rankin and Jeff Allen get a shot if they do. Nova, I answered your question like 10 minutes ago, man. Darwin Thompson isn't ready. That's why he's not playing. He can't pass protect enough, and quite frankly, he's not bringing enough juice to the run game. Who's next? Scott Meza. Would Ragland get more playing time now, or is Veach using him as trade bait? I think initially it was trade bait, but I don't think they have anything on the front burner, and that's why they're letting him play again. I just don't know. I don't know what the coaching staff feels about him, and I just can't tell, because it feels like he gets in the game out on the edge, a position he doesn't actually play, and he's still getting things done. So I don't know. I'd like to see him line up at one of the linebacker spots and blitz gaps all day long. Dare him to throw over the top of you. You can play some wider zones that will stress the DBs a little bit more, but you can play some zone blitz with the linebackers, and I think Reggie's a perfect candidate for that. Gary Holland, what do you think the refs are taking over the games, throwing in many flags? I don't know, man. I don't understand the refs half the time. So there's too many little details that are open to interpretation. I don't know. I'm to the point now where I'm almost open to that idea of them centralizing play review or call review. I got nothing. No fast action. I got you. I definitely said I don't think that Eric will go to the Redskins. And folks, I'm just behind because I'm trying to answer the question. So give me a little bit of time as I scroll through. Oh man, but we're 10 minutes. I got 10 minutes left. So I'll start going through fast action. I did answer your question though. And thank you for the super chat. With all the trade talk, this is LL Hard 3. With all the trade talk, do you think they're better players? Can you please explain why the Chiefs have available for a trade or an LB? There's too many teams that have those guys that are asking for ridiculous compensation in terms of draft picks. That's why. Dude, Nova, relax, dude. I'm going in order. Steve, how comfortable are you in the backup quarterbacks? Not at all. I mean, he's a solid guy, but he's had no time in the system. So, Anthony Boyd, I'm with you. Play action and screens in particular should be used a lot more. Let's see. Guys, I will get to your questions. You don't need to hit me 100 times on the same question. I will get there. Fast action, thanks again. You didn't need to do it again, that's for sure. I hope you heard the answer now. I don't think Eric Bieniemy is going to go to the Redskins. He might go to another team next offseason, but I think he's still I think he's 2 off seasons ago. Out from going. Okay, Roger. Will anyone get cut from the defense or offense? No, not unless they have to replace someone else. Nobody that you saw play. I'm still waiting to find out why Sanat's still on this roster. So we'll find that out. Michael Ford, are they going to consider putting more in to rest Mahomes' ankle? I don't think so. I hope they start doing it. I hope they can get back to the point where the offense is productive enough that they play with a lead in the fourth quarter and then they can do it. It's just not something I've ever seen Andy do, so I have trouble seeing that. Evan I, thanks for your super chat. Starting to regret trading a first-round pick to Seattle for the Chiefs. Could have drafted a corner. Yeah, I mean, Spags wants to play zone, and Byron Murphy was there at 29. He was there early in the second round, too. They could have traded up to get him. Byron Murphy would be perfect in this system. And I told you guys he was my number 1 corner in the draft. He attacks the ball. He's physical. I mean, I can go down the whole list. He would be perfect in this system. More Trent Williams. No, that's not happening. Low lip. Why every time that a loss happens, fans think we need to trade or sign everyone available? Because they're looking for answers. There are GMs that think like that too. Gary Holland to the refs. No, I answered. Yeah, sorry guys. I know I'm behind. I'll get them, but yeah, I answered your question, Gary. I don't think the refs are doing anything. Justin Troba, is Matt worse than Pat was last night? Pat wasn't that bad. He threw for 300 yards. He just had dudes in his face. Quite frankly, Matt Moore would have gotten decimated had he played last night, to the point where he would have taken so many hits, he would have coughed out the ball, and they would have lost another fumble. The turnovers would have been hellacious. S. Burke, any thoughts on why the offense is so slow at the beginning of games? I don't know. Usually Andy's first 15 are really, really punchy and effective, and they're just not right now. And I'm not sure why. He doesn't seem to morph after them. It doesn't look like the teams are doing anything special. It just looks like there's a series of miscues at the beginnings of games. Maybe it's nerves for these younger players, especially the receivers. I don't know. It's weird, but that's a good question. Anthony Boyd, you're right. When he's pressured, it makes it hard. And now that he can't roll out of the pocket and do what he does, it's even harder for Mahomes. Anthony Hobbs is the biggest need in the return of Eric Fisher. It'll definitely help, that's for sure. Pono Kawhi, aloha. Nice to see you. The emphasis shouldn't be on the defense, as pathetic as we are. We need to get 2 solid O-linemen, and without Patrick, we're done. I'm absolutely with you. We are talking the same language, Pono. Daryl Sparks, do you think the smaller wide receiver are having trouble in man coverage? Definitely. These guys, and it's not just that they're smaller, it's that they're younger too. Tyreek's smaller, but he can get off a press now. It took him a couple years to get to that point. And that's just what's going to have to happen too. I don't think I looked at the snap count. I don't think Dak played but 2 snaps on offense, and they didn't focus on him. And maybe that's a mismatch they can use. I don't know. That's a pretty good question, Stevie. That's a good point. I mean, let's see. Mike Hall, Patriots just released Ben Watson. Did they pick him up? Maybe. I don't know that they can outrun Blake Bell or Yelder, though. I'd rather see Yelder get a lot more snaps personally. Vince Clark, what do you think of trading for Trent Williams and moving Eric Fisher to guard? Fisher cannot play guard. He's going to be claustrophobic in there. And I don't know that Trent Williams is the answer either. He's had injuries. He's an older player. Washington's going to hold him hostage for draft picks. I just don't think that's a very good scenario either. Mike Hall, yeah, I thought Saunders looked okay. I'll take a look at the 22 and see exactly what he did. Brandon Church, simple question. Is this team tough enough to win the Super Bowl? Right now, no. I'm sorry to say that, but right now, no. They are too much finesse. They gotta swell up, man. They gotta get serious. I don't know if they gotta. I don't know how to do it, but they gotta play like somebody just slapped their mom. You know. Mark Shawls. Oh, thanks. I appreciate that. Why does Coach Bieniemy become more of an advocate for Darrell Williams? You know, I think it's just that he doesn't make that call. Andy's going to go with the hand that he wants to go with. He can suggest all he wants. I'm guessing that Eric Bieniemy would prefer to run the ball more, but it's not going to happen until he's actually calling the plays. And like we saw with Doug and we saw with Matt Nagy, eventually he will call the plays. I just don't know when it'll be. So, August, thank you very much. Victor Scuteri, sorry. Should 4th and 2 have gone to Sherman? Not necessarily, no. Use Sherman as a blocker there. Because when he's in, they all focus on him anyway. And that's honestly why you saw all the splits come down and the defense converge. It would have been best if you just run off tackle, pitch right. It looked like the right-hand side of the offense had some room. And I think they could have gotten to the corner and gotten the first down. And honestly, with Sherman leading the way as a lead blocker, that's what I would have done. Is Khalil McKenzie still available? No, he signed with a practice squad somewhere, and I can't remember which one. I want to say Philly, but I'm not 100%. Demetrius Scott, what do you think about the defense, and should we trade for it? Man, I've gone through that in detail all night. And no, Demetrius, should they consider firing Spags? No, not at all. This is the first season. It's not even close to that. They gave up 19 points. You should win every game with Pat Mahomes if you only give up 19 points. The coordinator is not the issue. Mike Seagraves, did you see that Elway is looking to trade off Booker, Sanders, and Harris before the cut? If so, will the Chiefs look at any of them? I'd love to see Chris Harris, not just because I'm a Jayhawk, but Chris Harris can play. He can help this team. But John Elway's never going to trade any solid player to the Chiefs. It's just not going to happen. So I can't see it. I don't want Booker. I wouldn't even take Derek Wolfe. I mean, if Xavier and Chris Jones are both out for the season, I would consider Wolfe. But that's what it would take for me. Do you think they should go after DB or OL in line 1? O-line can be found on the second day in rounds 2 and 3. You take a corner, an edge rusher, or a quarterback in round 1 every year. That's what you do. That's what I'd do. Let's see. Would you trade Frank Clark for a second for Patrick Peterson? No. You trade Frank Clark, you have no pass rush. Frank Clark and Chris Jones are what's keeping the blockers from concentrating on Okafor and Agba and Derek Nottie. Chris Jones alone cannot do it, no. Let's see. But I would trade a first and a third for Patrick Peterson tomorrow. You could maybe talk me into a first and a second. It's to that point. Whereas the Jets are looking to sell for picks. Yeah, I'm sure they are. Yeah, I don't think they have anything that can really help you, though. Yeah, I wouldn't be interested in really. I can't think of anybody on the Jets roster other than what's his name, Adams. But they got safeties they believe in, so I don't think that's in the cards. Mackenzie went to Seattle. Thanks, Curtis. I appreciate that. And you, Matthew, appreciate that. I just couldn't remember which team it was. Jerry Pratt, thanks, man. I appreciate it. Nova, I hope you're still here, and I hope you heard your answer. I'm sorry it took me so long. Sometimes when there's a lot of questions, I just get bogged down. So I'm trying to get caught up. I appreciate the patience, and I appreciate all the donations, you guys. I don't mean to leave you out. And Fast Action, I hope you heard your answer too. Okay, last one, Mike Hall. Any good run stuffing linebackers in the next draft? I haven't even started to look yet. When it gets to bowl season, that's when I start looking at the college guys. Because quite frankly, if somebody's played 3 games and they get hurt, it's not even worth my time to look at them because they won't be a high draft pick. So I want to see guys that play the whole season, they get to a bowl game, or that part of the season at least, and then we'll find out. It'll definitely be on my list this year. So with that said, we've been at it an hour, 200 plus. Thank you guys. That's great. I know everybody's frustrated. I think the team is too, and I think they're going to be able to pull some things around and get going in the right direction again. So don't take it too hard. I will have the all 22 by probably tomorrow afternoon. I will have at least some clips for you on Wednesday. And the way that it's been working out, by the time I get it all done, I've been having to split it up just to get you something on Wednesday and then usually something else on Thursday. So look for that too. And then the game plan on Friday, and we'll just keep rolling. I am going to be out on vacation at the end of the month, so be prepared for that. I'll be off for like a little over a week, but I'll probably try to have some content up for you. Or maybe I'll try to do something remote from the Caribbean. I don't know. Hope you guys are doing great. Cheers to you. Thanks for hanging out. I'll talk to you next time.